Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into some truly profound territory. And I want to start by having you visualize something. Picture the rigid, highly structured grandeur of a classic Michelangelo fresco. You know, all those perfectly defined lines, heavy historical figures, and really strict dogmatic rules. Got it in your head? Okay, now I want you to prepare to watch all of that just dissolve into something completely different. Something much more fluid, vibrant, and entirely without boundaries. We're exploring the teachings of the mystic and visionary Emmet Fox, specifically his really fascinating text on the consciousness of Christ. We're going to strip away all the historical baggage today. We aren't looking at this as a religion, but actually as a map straight back home to your absolute truest self.
Right, let's just get straight into this massive, mind-bending concept. Christ is not a historical figure, nor a theological symbol. Christ is a frequency. I'm just going to pause for a second to let that quote completely shatter our preconceived expectations. For literally centuries, this name has been all wrapped up in heavy theological garments, worshipped from way afar, and fiercely debated. But Emmet Fox, he proposes something so radical here. He says Jesus was the man, sure, but Christ is a state of the soul. It's the absolute highest vibration possible in human consciousness. Think of it as an eternal frequency that actually dwells like an unalterable, perfect little seed inside every single person.
So I really want you to ask yourself something, and be honest here. What if everything you've been taught about who you are is just an illusion? Think about all the heavy stories, the past wounds, the labels, the defenses, all that baggage we lug around every single day. We spend an unbelievable amount of energy protecting this character we've built over the years. But what if that exact character is the very thing blocking you from experiencing the frequency we were just talking about?
And that realization brings us to our first major paradigm shift. Section 1. A frequency, not a figure.
See, instead of just admiring some distant messenger, the goal here is to actually replicate a living state of consciousness. This contrast right here is a total game changer. We are so used to the idea of right thinking, right? It's all those positive affirmations where we try incredibly hard to fix our inner dialogue, discipline our emotions, and essentially repair the ego. And let's be real, it's exhausting. Because positive thinking is still fully operating from the belief that you're a separated, broken being who needs fixing in the first place. But on the flip side, living from the being is the effortless reality of simply resting in the source. You don't have to desperately try to manufacture results with your mind, you just recognize that you're already complete. One path is a constant struggle, the other just naturally reveals what's already there.
But to actually get to that state, we need to move to Section 2, dissolving the illusory self.
Okay, so this illusory self we're talking about, it's a remarkably noisy, incredibly fragile construct. It's built almost entirely out of fear and past experiences. You know the drill. It constantly needs validation, it gets offended over nothing, it compares itself to literally everyone. So how do we gently unlearn that and dissolve it to find true freedom? Well, Fox provides a deeply practical toolkit for your daily life. First up is recognition. You literally just observe your reactions without judging them. Just get a front row seat and notice when your character is speaking. Second is surrender. And hey, this is not defeat. It's simply letting go of the desperate need to defend your personal story. Third is permanence, practicing staying in that clear, observant state, letting those old sticky thoughts pass on by like clouds. And finally, presence, anchoring yourself completely in the now, because the false self, it can only survive in the psychological time of the past or the future.
Now let's ground this energy a bit as we get into Section 3, transforming the inner shadow. Because true spiritual growth isn't just about floating around in the light all day. It absolutely demands that we face our hidden, sometimes darker fragments. Now, the absolute crucial point here is that your shadow is not evil. It's really just accumulated unconsciousness, the unrecognized memories, the repressed emotions, the whole shebang. It only has power over you when it's hidden in the dark. When we hide those parts of ourselves, they leak out, projecting outwards as these totally disproportionate reactions and harsh judgments of other people. But the literal second you look at your shadow with the clear, non-judgmental eyes of the spirit, it dissolves. You just say, yep, this is in me, but it doesn't define me. And just like that, the shadow transforms from a heavy burden into pure wisdom.
Which naturally brings us to Section 4, silence as true authority.
This concept completely flips our entire understanding of power upside down. We usually think of authority as something really loud, something that imposes itself on a room. But instead, I want you to literally memorize this vital, soul-searching question. Keep it in your back pocket for the heat of your very next difficult conversation. When someone triggers you, when your ego flares up and demands to fiercely defend itself, take a breath, pause, and ask, am I about to react or to reveal?
Because the bottom line is this: the Christ consciousness does not react, it reveals.
Truth never, ever needs to shout. It never needs to impose itself to change the energy of a room. When you stop reacting from your past wounds and you simply hold on to your inner stillness, your very presence becomes a revelation. You don't need to win the argument anymore. Your silence, when it's born from deep alignment, carries so much more genuine authority than 1,000 defensive, angry words.
And taking that to heart changes how we view our entire reality. It highlights the deep contrast between the illusory world and the kingdom. There is this huge misconception out there that the goal of mystical teachings is to somehow fight or fix the broken external world of forms, to make this world a better place. But Fox argues something entirely different. The goal is actually to step completely out of its logic. The external world is just a projection of a divided mind. The kingdom is not some reformed, polished-up version of this world. It's an entirely different frequency of consciousness altogether.
And that shifts us into Section 5. The kingdom is within you.
So, bring back that boundaryless, fluid, Van Gogh-like energy we talked about at the start. The kingdom isn't some destination you travel to after you die. It is a dimension of consciousness that you inhabit right here, right now. You aren't just some temporary vessel hoping to eventually be filled up with the divine. You literally are the light. And when you finally realize that, your whole understanding of miracles shifts completely. We normally think of miracles as these crazy magic tricks, right? Exceptions to the rules of nature. But a miracle is actually the natural, inevitable consequence of a state of being aligned with the source. You don't chase miracles to try and fix the illusion. When you align your mind with the kingdom, harmony is just the natural byproduct. A miracle is simply the correction of a false perception.
I want you to consider this incredibly beautiful shift in perspective. Do not say, "Lord, use me." Say, "Lord, be yourself in me." Do you feel the shift there? It is so powerful. It's the transition from being a separated, begging ego, trying to act as a mere channel for some distant God, to becoming a fully integrated expression of eternal presence. You are the lamp that is already lit.
Which means we really need to redefine what surrender actually is. Surrender is a state. It's not an act. True surrender isn't a momentary defeat. It isn't just throwing your hands up in the air when you're completely exhausted and beaten down by life. No, it is a constant, incredibly peaceful alignment where you permanently stop resisting the universe. You stop fighting what simply is, and you allow the divine order to flow right through you, completely free from the friction of the ego.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought. Who are you when you finally drop your story? When the name, the past, the deeply held wounds, and that defensive character all just fall away, what remains? I'll let that echo in your mind for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.